Back in December, then President Obama referred to the Electoral College as a vestige. Now, would you say that the Electoral College is antiquated, or is it still relevant in the 21st century?
Oh, absolutely, it's still relevant. The Electoral College is really greatly misunderstood. What it works like, what it was for, why it was included in the Constitution in the first place. And people need to recognize what it really is doing for us. It is creating a situation where we aren't electing the president just by the largest population centers around the country. This creates a need for the president candidates to go around. Every state in the country is important. They need to talk to as many people as they can across the entire country in order to create a broad coalition of support. Even the smaller states have a say in this regard. If we get rid of the Electoral College, all the presidential campaigning focuses on the large population centers only, because that's where they'll get the most bang for their buck. So with the Electoral College, it really balances out that power across the entire country so that every state has some say in what's going on with who the next president's going to be.
Rather than having, let's say, California or New York City
Sure.
or LA determine the outcome of the election.
Right, right. And that's where all the political campaigning would be spent at that point, is just in those largest population centers. It also creates a situation where if voter fraud were a concern, it's much more of a concern if we went to a national popular vote. You get these large population centers that are likely going to go towards one party or another. You do a lot more political gerrymandering or voter fraud or whatever else to increase those numbers in those areas. That can have a much greater effect across the whole nation. Whereas with the Electoral College, California, for example, has 55 votes. Even if there's massive amounts of voter fraud, they're only contributing 55 votes to a particular candidate. So that helps temper the effects of any voting fraud that may happen in one area or another in the country.
Individuals should be quite leery of abolishing the Electoral College and replacing it with the national popular vote, as you mentioned, because of these large population centers. And if you take into account mass immigration with the sanctuary cities, you can only imagine how that would further add to the
Sure.
votes to a certain candidate over another. So that's another, would you say that's another concern that individuals should keep in mind when considering whether they should abolish the Electoral College or not?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Especially in those cases where you have a lot of people that are on the voting rolls that probably shouldn't be. They aren't necessarily citizens or whatever else, and yet oftentimes they're encouraged to vote as well. So that's also a concern.